Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you are familiar with my videos. My name is Elmira Strange. I'm a psychologist, but also I'm a spiritual seeker. Well, I've been for many years, and now finding Islam, I would say that I am happy where I am. However, there are some questions which are emailed to me pretty much on daily basis from other people, knowing that the path of New Age spirituality, if you were there, if you walked that path like me for many years, now you're interested in Islam because there is a fundamental truth here. You still have some questions, and that's fine. And here we're exploring these questions and we're trying to find certain answers or explanations. May Allah forgive us if we are getting into beyond our curiosity, maybe if we are exploring more than what we should have. We have natural curiosity, especially if you are into spirituality. Of course, you have questions, and may Allah forgive us. But nevertheless, let's explore this topic. It's all about aliens. Do they exist? Because from Islamic perspective, we know we have a lot of information about the unseen, even though we know that we don't know everything. In fact, we know just a grain of sand really from all the truth concerning the universe and this reality and perhaps even other realities. Nevertheless, what we know is this. According to a 2021 survey, 65% of Americans believe that there is extraterrestrial life, so there are aliens. We also know that Pentagon in 2021 released their UAP, which is Unidentified Aerial Phenomena report, admitting they cannot explain 143 of 144 cases investigated. There are entire international UFO conferences, like UFO Congress in the US, Contact in the Desert, attracting thousands of people yearly. There are also documented mass sightings, for example, Phoenix lights, which are unexplainable by any other means, in Arizona, which were seen by thousands of people, and also aerial school incident in Zimbabwe, which was witnessed by over 60 children. So perhaps you've heard from one of my previous videos that when I was in New Age spirituality, I was a big follower of Dolores Cannon. I loved her work. And part of her work was actually about aliens and abduction. And if you think this is all stupid thing, really, you probably wouldn't be on my channel right now, because yes, there are things which are unexplainable, but it doesn't mean that they're stupid and we should disregard them, especially if you are seeking answers like all spiritual seekers. And Dolores Cannon actually wrote extensively on this subject because she was hypnotizing people and explored these things, the disappearances, because the people who were coming to her, not all, but there was a small percentage of people who were claiming that at some point, for example, a person is walking home and there was a time lapse. Suddenly, some chunk of time disappeared, and then they find themselves being by their house, for example, 2 hours later, or even more, longer. Or they were sitting in the car and then they appeared in some different place and unaware of the time where it's gone to, that a few hours that disappeared. Or perhaps they have some kind of memory, but it's very vague and they were not sure, and they're just anxious about what exactly happened that they cannot remember. So when she was regressing them, they were recalling something like meetings with extraterrestrials, with aliens, that eventually kind of erased their memory. And this is what happened in the end. So it's fascinating read, I have to say, because I was reading her books about that. But when I came to Islam, I realized that in Islam, we don't have information about aliens per se. We have more about jinns, or jinnis, how I call them. But anyway, it's beings that we don't see. And they're of all kinds. We have like many different types. And those which can be quite spooky at night and in our houses, or it could be those who live in the mountains and in the deserts and desolated places and abandoned places and things like that. All those ghosts, as we call it, or some paranormal beings, entities. And so would it be those genies that mask themselves as what we think is aliens, or is it something else? So as I said, Dolores Cannon was a hypnotherapist who wrote extensively on alien abduction and interdimensional beings. And the book is really describing all this. It's called The Custodians Beyond Abduction, where she documented people's memories of alien contact, disappearances, and the idea that aliens are custodians of humanity. And she also wrote the book Keepers of the Garden, suggesting that humans were seeded by extraterrestrials. So what's important to remember, that from Islamic perspective, this is speculation, it's not revelation. However, there are other people who allegedly saw aliens, interacted with them, and so on. And some of these people I met in shamanic ceremonies, where I spent a few years of my life in Mexico doing various ceremonies where you have visions of all kinds. So in one of the visions, I remember when I was shown another planet. My question before going to that ceremony was, I really would like to see another planet where there are some other beings live. I really wanted to explore, are aliens real? At that time, I wasn't in Islam. That was pre-Islam, right? So I was exploring all that spiritual paths. In that vision particularly, at some point I found myself looking at another planet. And what I was aware of, that planet has buildings which were structured very differently from ours. They were more round-like. They were different sizes, and a whole planet seemed to be bigger than ours. What also I was made aware is that there are beings that live on that planet and they look different from us. In fact, they look more like grasshoppers, but big ones. Whatever you think right now, maybe you think I'm crazy, whatever, but I can tell you that that was my vision, and that's it. So I asked in my mind, do those beings know about Earthians, about us? And as if someone was explaining to me through my thought patterns that indeed some of them, small percentage of them, know about us, but the majority don't, pretty much like people on Earth. Why? Because they have their own lives to run. They also have their lives, their houses, their vehicles, their work, and so on. So that was quite interesting, because in the end of the day, when you come out of the vision, you think, well, perhaps it was my mind construct. Who knows? Or perhaps there is a vision. Maybe there are some other planets and other beings. So after that, I met one shaman who was actually for years worked only as shaman. So he doesn't do anything else, no other job, daytime job or anything like that. He's actually Amazonian shaman. And when I told him about my vision from that ceremony, he said to me, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have seen that alien, that type of alien, which look like grasshopper, but really big one. And actually, I saw him face to face in one of my visions. And that grasshopper, that alien, say to the shaman, what it is you want to know. And the shaman said, well, I have questions. And the grasshopper, or the alien, say to him telepathically, when you heal yourself, you will have no questions left. That was quite profound, I thought. We are all not truly healed, because if we are healed and complete and absolute, then we just drift quite nicely in this lifetime until the end of it and go to the afterlife on pretty much high level. I guess if we are totally healed, we have no questions, or perhaps we become not so interested in exploring these mysteries, knowing that they will be revealed at some point, perhaps after this life, when we cross over to the afterlife. Perhaps then we will know everything. So why do we need to even explore these mysteries? Perhaps there is a reason for why we shouldn't be exploring them. And this is why Islam doesn't really provide the answers specifically on aliens. However, I do remember the situation when I was about 12, 13, and we went to the camping with my family and with another family of friends. And I remember as my mom and the mom from another family, they started cooking, they made fire, and it was by the river. So it was like really serenic, really nice. It was countryside in Kazakhstan at the time. So it was, I would say, early 90s. And my father and the father from that family, they decided to go by boat on that river, in that stream, to catch some fish. So they went on this boat, and the river had a turning point, and there was a lot of forest and trees on the banks of the river. So After literally a minute or two, we could not see them anymore because they turned with the boat. So when they went there was about maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes passed, and they returned. So everybody started taking Mickey out of them and laughing and say like, why did you come back so early? Did you see something weird there? So like, why did you come back? And my father and their father, they laughed as well, like nervously, and they said, actually, we've seen something that you will not believe us. And everybody was laughing. Did you see aliens or something? And they said, yes, we did. And everybody just laughed it off. However, I remember that case. And many years later, as an adult, I went to my father and I said, do you remember that time when you went by boat with another man and you came back 10 minutes later and you say that you've seen aliens? Like, tell me about it. And my father said to me, it was true. We've seen UFO. We went by boat, the river turned, and because there was lots of trees, on the other side, there was a clearance from the trees, and there was a UFO. And we stopped looking at that UFO, and we are in shock. And I said to him, what did it look like? And he said, like in the movies. It was round and it had lights, different colors lights. And when we were sitting in the boat and looking at that thing, we looked at each other and we said, maybe we should go back? What if there is some kind of radiation from it? And this is how they turned their boat and went back to us where we were camping. And this is what happened. And my father said it's the true story. And my father used to work as a policeman in Kazakhstan for many years, and he is very aware of various flying entities, you can say, whether they're from government or from another country. He's very aware of what's happening in the sky. And to see something that he identified as something like UFO, to me, that was pretty credible. I am sure that many of you have quite a few stories, whether they were publicized on the internet, whether they are researched, whether they are witnessed by you, by your family, by your friends. You all can recall that there is something else beyond this life. As we know from Qur'an, it says, and among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth and the living creatures, Dabba, that he has scattered throughout them. And he has the power to gather them together whenever he wills. So perhaps this verse has been interpreted to suggest life that exists beyond earth. And also Quran confirms that existence. Also we know that Quran confirms existence of jinn or jinnis as intelligent beings made of smokeless fire. They live parallel to us, unseen, with free will. And many scholars suggest what people call aliens may actually be encounters with jinn. Also, here's another theory. Allah is called Rabb al Alamin, Lord of the Worlds, and some scholars take this literally. So not just Earth, but possibly many worlds of beings. And we can also draw one information from Hadith, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, Allah created thousands and thousands of worlds. Perhaps not all scholars consider this as firm truth and very good solid evidence. However, it shows us that there is an acknowledgement of multiple worlds. So I wonder, what do you think and what stories you can recall or what experiences do you have? Do you think it's genies basically that appear to us as aliens, or there is something else? Because as I said, Allah said he created multiple worlds. So perhaps we do have other beings on different planets. Who knows? May Allah forgive us all if we're exploring something that should be left as a mystery. But as a spiritual seekers, we are here to learn, to grow, to come to some realizations, find our true path if you still haven't found it yet. And I'm here to explore it with you all the step of the way. Looking forward to your comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in one of my next videos.